Mr. President, many times over the last 6 months, I've come to the floor of the Senate to speak out on issues and to disagree with President Trump. It's clear that we have very profound political differences when it comes to the issues that face us. But I come to the floor this morning in an unusual position to express my gratitude to President Trump and for a position which he has taken, which I think is the right position for America. Let me explain. 5 years ago, President Barack Obama created the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program known as DACA. It enabled approximately 790,000 talented young people to contribute more fully to this country. They're teachers, they're nurses, they're engineers, they're small business owners, and more. DACA, this executive order by President Obama, provides temporary legal status to immigrant students who arrived in the United States as infants and toddlers and children. They have to come forward under this executive order and register with our government. They have to pay a substantial fee for processing. And then they have to submit themselves to a criminal and national security background check. If they are successful, they are given 2 years of temporary relief from deportation. This program is based on the DREAM Act. It's a bill that I first introduced in the United States Senate 16 years ago, 2001. That bill would give undocumented students who grew up in this country a chance to become legal, to earn their way to citizenship. These young people have come to be known as dreamers. They came to the United States under the age of 16, some of them a year or two old. They grew up in the United States, going to our public schools, singing the Star-Spangled Banner, pledging allegiance to the only flag they've ever known, the American flag. They're American in every way, except for their immigration status. We've already invested in them, as you can tell, invested in their education and bringing them up in America in our schools. I can't believe it makes any sense for the future of our country to squander their talents by deporting them to countries that many of them have never known. A recent study by the Center for American Progress finds that ending DACA, the President Obama executive order, would cost our economy at least $433 billion in production over the next 10 years. The Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy estimates that the 1.3 million young people eligible for DACA are going to pay $2 billion every year in state and local taxes. Now, I've said at the beginning, I've had many differences with President Trump, particularly on the issue of immigration and some of the speeches and statements he's made. But I do personally appreciate that this president has kept the DACA program in place. I've only spoken directly to President Trump 2 times, 3 times perhaps. And the first 2 times, one on his day of inauguration, I thanked him for the kind words he had said about dreamers and the DACA students and those protected by the president's executive order. President Trump said to me, "Don't worry about those kids." Well, Mr. President, I continue to worry about those kids. I worry about them now more than ever, not because I've heard any change of heart or reversal from you, but because of other circumstances which are bringing this issue to a head. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton and 9 other states have threatened to sue you, Mr. President, unless by September 5th you rescind the memorandum that established DACA by President Obama and announce that your administration will not renew or issue any new DACA permits. This direct, specific threat to the DACA program has left hundreds of thousands of these dreamers anxious, concerned, and worried about their future. Last week, I was joined by Senator Chuck Schumer, our Democratic leader, and 40 other Senate Democratic colleagues in writing a letter to President Trump asking him to order his Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, to use all legal options to defend DACA so that these young people can continue to contribute to the country that they love. Some of my friends on the other side of the aisle oppose the DACA program. To them, I say, if you don't support DACA, then let's immediately pass the Bipartisan DREAM Act. If you think President Obama went beyond his presidential authority with this executive order, then let's take up this matter where it should be taken up, here in the legislative branch of our government, here in the United States Senate. I recently reintroduced the DREAM Act with my friend and colleague, Lindsey Graham of South Carolina. And now that I'm in the mood of thanking Republican leaders, including President Trump, let me thank Senator Lindsey Graham, as well as Senator Jeff Flake and Senator Lisa Murkowski. They have stepped forward and joined in co-sponsoring this DREAM Act. Our government should give these young people a chance to earn their way to citizenship. They were brought to this country as children. They didn't make the family decision to cross the border. They've been raised in this country. They've created no problems in terms of criminal background. They've gone through our schools. All they're asking for is a chance. When we introduced the DREAM Act a week or so ago, Senator Graham said that the young people who have received DACA should be treated fairly and not have the rug pulled out from under them. Lindsey Graham is right. Over the years, I've come to the floor over 100 times to tell the stories of these dreamers, to make it personal so that you come to know who they are and why I've taken the time to make this a major part of my service in the Senate. These stories put a human face on the DACA program and on the DREAM Act, and they show what immigration actually means to our country in real terms. This is Juan Martinez. Juan, when he was less than 2 years old, was brought to America from Mexico. Less than 2. He grew up in Dallas, Texas, with his parents and brothers. He was an honors student in high school and graduated as valedictorian of his class with over 3.9 GPA. Member of the National Honor Society, an active member of the debate team and student government. He was an accomplished student, but he was also a very active community volunteer. Juan helped organize food drives at the local food banks. He cared for children at recreation centers while their parents worked, and he volunteered at soup kitchens. In his senior year of high school, he applied to his dream school, once my dream school, Georgetown University, and he was accepted. As a college student, Juan has been studying international politics, concentrating on security, minoring in the Arabic language. In his first year of college, Juan was elected as a student senator. In his spare time here in Washington, he mentors disadvantaged high school students so that they can apply successfully for college. His dream one day is to work for our government, to help our country, the country that he calls home, and to make the world a safer place. Juan sent me a letter, and this is what he said. Thanks to DACA, I can focus on my studies without worrying that it may all be taken away from me any second. I've always thought of myself as an American, Juan says, but it's thanks to DACA that I can begin to truly feel like one too. That feeling is something I'm thankful for every day. Juan and other dreamers have so much to contribute to this country. But without DACA, without similar protection, Juan could be deported back to Mexico, a country where he hasn't been since he was 2 years old. Would we be a stronger nation if we lost Juan Martinez? If he was deported? I don't think so. I think the answer is clearly no. Senator Lindsey Graham, when we introduced the DREAM Act last week, said, quote, "The moment of reckoning is coming." I would say to the President, first, again, thank you. Thank you for allowing DACA to continue under your administration. Thank you for keeping your word to me and so many others when you said these young people don't have to worry. But we're reaching a moment, Mr. President, when we have to come together and do something. We need you, and you need us, so that we can pass important legislation, and you can sign it, legislation that will give these young people the protection that they deserve, the opportunity that they seek, the chance to make America a greater nation. I know the reality of this issue. I know it from both political sides. I've witnessed it for over a decade. I know that it's not popular, Mr. President, that you've taken this position to stand behind the dreamers and those protected by DACA. But you told me you thought it was the right thing to do, and I'm sure you still feel that way. Your new Chief of Staff, General Kelly, and I have had many conversations about this, and I believe that he too thinks legislation is necessary to protect these young people. I hope you can come together. I stand ready. Senator Graham stands ready. We have a bipartisan coalition prepared to work with you. Let's not let this decision be made in a courtroom somewhere far from Washington. Let's take on our responsibility, yours as president, ours in the Senate, to address this critical issue that really cries out for justice. This is the time to do it. The concern and anxiety and stress is higher than ever among these populations of people affected by DACA and the DREAM Act, and of course their families as well. I hope you'll join us in creating a legal option that will defend the DACA program and will work with us in Congress to make the DREAM Act the law of the land, so that we can say to young people like Juan Martinez and hundreds of thousands of others, yes, we will give you your chance to prove that you can be a valuable part of America's future, give you your chance to make America a stronger nation. That is all they have asked for, and that is something that we, on a bipartisan basis, with the President, should give them. Mr. President, I yield the floor.